My child, have you ever stopped in silence to ponder this question? What becomes of the souls of those who spread terror, who kill without remorse, who orchestrate the suffering of millions? When we recall names etched in blood across the pages of history, when we think of murderers, maniacs, and despots like Hitler, the mind trembles. We ask, is there any justice in the universe? Does the soul of such a one escape unscathed at death? Or is it brought face to face with the consequences of its deeds? To answer, let us begin with an eternal truth. The soul itself is never stained. The soul is a ray of the infinite, a spark of God's eternal flame. No crime, no madness, no cruelty can alter that essence. What becomes corrupted is not the soul, but the mind and ego through which it expresses. Just as dust can cover a diamond, but never destroy it, so the divine essence of every being remains intact, even when veiled by hatred and delusion. But though the soul is pure, the coverings must be cleansed, and the law of karma ensures that every act, good or evil, finds its balance. When the murderer lays down his body in death, his story is not over. Death does not dissolve responsibility. Rather, it unveils it. In the physical body, man can numb his conscience, drown it with excuses or intoxicants, or silence it with cruelty. But once the body falls away, the soul enters the astral world, where consciousness is expanded and deception is stripped away. There, the soul faces itself without mask or excuse. The astral world is not some vague dreamland. It is a realm more vivid, more real than the physical. It is composed of light and vibration, where thoughts instantly take form, where every feeling becomes a landscape. Souls of harmony and virtue find themselves in luminous gardens, filled with music and radiance beyond earthly imagining. But those who carried darkness within, who sowed fear, hatred, and cruelty, are drawn by the magnetic law of affinity into lower astral regions that reflect their own inner state. These regions, described in the scriptures as hells, are not eternal prisons but schools of correction. They are places where the soul is compelled to face the vibratory consequence of its actions. Imagine, for instance, a murderer who cut short another's life. On earth, he silenced his victim with one act, but in the astral realm, he cannot silence the cries of pain that echo through his own awareness. He feels, with unrelenting clarity, what his victim felt: the terror, the anguish, the brokenness of loved ones left behind. He tastes it all as if it were his own, for in truth it is his own, for the soul of man is inseparable from the soul of all. The killer discovers the oneness of life not in bliss, but in agony. The maniac, whose reason was distorted, undergoes a different experience. If his crimes were born of uncontrollable imbalance, then divine mercy weighs this in the balance. He may still wander through restless astral states, confused and tormented by his ungoverned impulses, but he is not judged as harshly as the deliberate evildoer. God's justice is never blind to circumstance. Where insanity is the fruit of karmic burdens from past lives, the soul learns through the pain of its imbalance and will be given another chance to incarnate in conditions that restore harmony. But what of tyrants like Hitler, whose actions were not confined to a single murder, but to the orchestration of mass slaughter, cruelty on a colossal scale? Such a soul, upon leaving the body, beholds a panorama of suffering beyond what we can conceive. In the astral realm, he sees not statistics, not faceless numbers, but the eyes of each child who perished, each mother who wept, each soldier who fell. He feels, in magnified intensity, the collective anguish of millions. This is his hell, a vast ocean of sorrow, pressing upon him without respite. He cannot escape, for he has woven those vibrations into the fabric of his own consciousness. These hellish states are not punishments decreed by a wrathful God. They are simply the soul reaping what it has sown. In truth, the soul punishes itself. Divine law only ensures that what is sown must be harvested, until the soul learns. The longer it resists, the longer it suffers. The moment it cries out, Enough! I will walk toward the light. Divine grace begins its work of lifting. No soul is lost forever. Even the darkest must one day return to the light. But the path is long and filled with purifying fires. A murderer may wander through countless births before his conscience awakens fully. He may return again and again to earthly life, this time as the victim of violence, tasting the bitterness of his own deeds. A dictator who oppressed millions may in future lives be born among the oppressed, humbled again and again until compassion arises naturally. Slowly, through the crucible of suffering, the heart learns tenderness, the mind learns humility, and the soul turns toward its source. This, my child, is the secret. God never abandons anyone. His love is so vast that even the most depraved soul is still his child. The difference is that some children come quickly when the Father calls, and others linger stubbornly in the shadows, playing with pain until they tire of it. But eventually, every soul, even the Hitlers of history, must return to the divine embrace. Yet ask yourself, why does God allow such beings to rise at all? Why permit their birth, their tyranny, their bloodshed? The answer is hidden in the mystery of freedom. God gave man free will, for without freedom, no true love or joy could exist. But with freedom comes the possibility of misuse. Some souls, drunk with ego, choose to misuse it grievously. And yet, even this becomes a part of the divine plan, for their very evil becomes the contrast that awakens others to good. Without darkness, would the light be cherished? Without the cruelty of a Hitler, would the world have united so powerfully in its cry for peace and justice? Through even the worst, the hand of God works secretly, leading all toward awakening. Still, let us not be complacent. The destiny of such souls warns us of the power of our own choices. The seeds of cruelty and selfishness lie dormant in every human ego. The difference between saint and sinner is made each day by whether we water seeds of compassion or seeds of hatred. If we indulge in anger, bitterness, or greed, we take small steps toward the same darkness that swallowed the tyrants. Let their fate be a mirror that calls us to vigilance. When death comes to the righteous, they rise to astral gardens filled with music and peace. When death comes to the murderer, he sinks into the shadows of his own creation. When death comes to the tyrant, he faces the collective grief of his victims. And when death comes to the insane, he wanders in restless confusion until divine law guides him to new balance. But in every case, the story is not of punishment, but of education. The universe is a school, and karma the stern but just teacher. Do not harden your heart even against the wicked. Yes, oppose their actions, protect the innocent, stand for justice. But in the secret chamber of your heart, pray even for their souls. Say, Lord, let light one day awaken them, for to hate them binds you to the same cycle, but to love them, even distantly, hastens the healing of the world. So what happens to them? They suffer in astral realms of their own making. They wander through cycles of rebirth filled with pain. They are purified, they repent, they awaken. And finally, like all souls, they return to God. Such is the unchanging law, such is the infinite mercy. Remember always, the divine writes no one off as hopeless. Even the murderer, the maniac, the tyrant, one day they, too, will shine as saints. The road may take ages, but the end is certain. All rivers, however soiled, must flow at last into the ocean of spirit. And when they do, we will look back on the long journey and see that even the darkest night was part of the dawn of eternal light.